Today we're joined by John Minadakis, the co-owner of Jimmy's Famous Seafood. He'll tell us how he endured seemingly endless challenges, how he won the war with PETA, and how giving was the answer of thriving through COVID. So hit that like button and subscribe and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Executive Report. Today we'll be talking with John Minadakis from Jimmy's Famous Seafood, and he's going to tell us about his whole journey from how he started in the business to how he's made it where he is, and maybe some of the local successes he had with some of the local sports teams. So before I get started, let me read a quick little bio. That way you have some information about him. So John Minadakis is the co-owner and operator of Jimmy's Famous Seafood, which is widely considered to be one of the state's most iconic restaurants. I can agree. I've been there many times. The restaurant recently entered into the home stadiums of the Washington Nationals, the Aberdeen IronBirds, Baltimore Ravens, and most recently the Baltimore Orioles. With their iconic crab cakes. John was born and raised in Baltimore, living on top of the restaurant in an apartment until his mid-20s. He's a proud alum of Loyola Blakefield's middle school and high school programs, where he became a Don before graduating from Loyola University. Most recently, John's made headlines for funding the Famous Fund, a nonprofit which raised over $500,000 to aid his fellow restaurant owners during the COVID lockdowns. So to date, John's helped over 30 restaurants, and they've received a lot of financial assistance and help in COVID. So, John, welcome to Executive Report.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you believe in fate or if you believe in higher powers or anything like that, but I believe that in some cases people are really custom made for certain situations. And when I think about you and your story and the adversity and how you've overcome so many things, I honestly believe that maybe you were custom made for what you're doing today. And I don't know if anyone else could have succeeded the way you have. So I know that you grew up above the restaurant. And I know that it was a family business, obviously still is. But what was it like when you were a kid, living above the restaurant and going in and out of the kitchen and those things?
Yeah, it was definitely unique, obviously, growing up on top of a bar and restaurant with my brothers, and in a great era to grow up. Growing up in the 80s and 90s was a really good time to be a kid. So a lot of great stories, as you can imagine. Obviously, anytime we were hungry, we just went downstairs and you can get shrimp or a crab cake. That's pretty good living right there. But it just made sure that we knew why we were able to have some of the nice things that we had, because all you had to do was walk downstairs, down 15 flights of steps, or 15 steps rather, and watch your parents working and grinding, every day, 7 days a week, and you realize, the value of hard work, and that nothing happens by accident, that you have to work for everything, and it really just, humbled us, obviously taught us the value of friendship, taught us great people skills, obviously, just getting to meet hundreds of different people a day from all walks of life and all backgrounds. And it's just something that I would never trade. I think it's probably, one of the most important things in my life that ever happened to me, obviously, and my brothers. Just really keeps us grounded, for sure.
So, and you go to the restaurant now, and it's this, huge building, this big successful business. But I know it wasn't always that way. I think you said you were 19 when your dad passed. Your brother was 16, and there were some pretty hard times, that happened. And obviously you overcame all those things. But I mean, what was I guess you could say the biggest challenges? Like I think it was the first 10 years you said when you took over.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're teenagers, basically, taking over a pretty established business, it's you're walking that line between thinking you know everything and in actuality really just knowing nothing. So the most difficult part, without a doubt, was just learning on the fly, and every decision that we made had massive ramifications because we didn't get the training wheels. We didn't get to be wrong. When we were wrong, and we were wrong often, there was pretty bad fallout because now you're falling behind on your bills, and there's overdraft fees, and Verizon's cutting the lines, and I mean, I can go on and on, but that was definitely the most difficult part. Obviously, is just not getting a practice swing, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, did you have any mentors or anyone to help at the time?
Obviously my biggest mentor was my father, and just not having him around, that was the most difficult part. And even when he was around, he was like a man of very, very, very few words. So he would lead by example. So while he was showing us how it's done, he didn't always verbalize it.
Got it.
So, Philip Rizas, who was another restaurateur, a friend of my father's, he owned Finn's and a couple other great places locally. He helped us out a lot, obviously. And there's other people that, did help out, but just, it wasn't, unless you lived it, it was just very, very hard. And we just kind of had to figure it out on our own, and we just had to have each other's back. And I speak frequently about you don't have to meet somebody for them to be your mentor. So, I looked to people like Roy Williams, I looked at people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Michael Jordan, and I just grabbed something from each person that I thought I admired and I wanted to incorporate into the man that I was becoming. And as you mentioned earlier, attending Loyola Blakefield just really set me down the right path, and just kept my faith at the forefront. Just let me know that no matter how bad things were getting, that there was a greater plan that was going to come together, whether I was seeing it at the time or not. And just having that Loyola community behind me and constantly reaching out to me and checking on me, despite not getting my parents' tuition dollars anymore because we had already graduated, really meant a lot to me at the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. The idea of walking by faith, not by sight, is hard for a lot of people. And kudos to you for being able to get past those things. So, when all that was said and done, now you look back at it and you think, that's in the past. Were there any really big learning moments though?
Gosh, I think every day is a learning moment, honestly. It's just, you want to get better every day.
Yeah.
I don't believe in staying the same. I think either you're getting better or you're getting worse. And not only in the business sense, but, spiritually, mentally, physically. You just want to make sure that you're becoming a better person when you go to bed than when you woke up that day. You only get so many hours in the day. You got to make them count. You got to make every minute count, every interaction. And at the end of the day, those things add up. Consistency, I think, has always been key. And, when we spoke last week, it was just a very difficult balance for me to figure out if they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result. But we also, as a culture, as a country, value consistency and hard work. So where's the balance? If I'm trying so hard every day, but things aren't turning around, am I insane, or am I going to at some point break through? And I think everybody's got to find that balance in their life. And I mean, I don't know when it happened, in my life, but, somewhere along the way, things did turn around, and we were able financially to turn a profit, and the name, was getting out there more, and just things started going a lot better than they used to. But there's never success overnight, no matter what field you're in, no matter what business you're in. And we just kept plugging away. And, looking back, there wasn't one moment. I don't know. There's been some highlights along the way, obviously, but I just think just sticking to your morals and sticking to your guns and knowing who you are and what you value and displaying it, not just saying it, it'll get you to where you want to be eventually.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Simon Sinek, who does a lot of talks about running a business, and he says it's very similar to falling in love. It's not like you wake up one morning and say, "Oh, I'm going to fall in love today." It's the process, and then all of a sudden you realize, "Hey, I'm in love with this person." And he says running a business is very similar in that you do the process and you keep going, and then all of a sudden you look back and you say, "Wow, we've really accomplished something great." I completely understand.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll just go through my old photos on my cell phone or on our social media platforms, or I'll find folders of old pictures, and it's just it's amazing to see how far you've come. And there's an expression a lot of people stop going where they want to go because they don't realize how far they've come. And I think it's great to reflect frequently and I have a Kairos journal where I just write my thoughts and what I'm thankful for each day. And even if you look back, not 3 years, but 3 weeks, you can see how far you've come in life, and just really give thanks and be appreciative and thankful for everything that you have in your life that, you would have done so much for just months and years ago. So it keeps everything in perspective. And I think that's what keeps, I think, successful people in line, is knowing that you've accomplished and attained things that you always wanted to have, but you have to cherish those too once you have them. You can't just say, okay, I don't want this toy anymore, and throw it back. That's what brats do, right?
That's right. That's right. So you mentioned looking back, and one of the things you said is you look back at your social media platforms. So that leads me right into the war with PETA, right? So I remember it very distinctly. I remember seeing the billboards, and I remember some 4-letter words coming out of my mouth. But honestly, I drove past it, and I didn't give it a second thought. You had a completely different reaction, I think. Maybe there were some 4-letter words as well, but you actually you took action. So can you tell us a little bit about why it hit you so personally?
Well, I mean, obviously they're attacking the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
And PETA's a pretty big name, obviously. And a lot of people, when I asked around and when I looked around, I said, we have to fight back at some point. We can't just take this. Yeah. As I talked to fellow bar owners, restaurant owners, and they were like, I just really don't want to pick a fight with them, of all people. So I did it on my own. I put out some stats, obviously, the whole glass house thing.
Yep.
And lo and behold, PETA's not the perfect company that a lot of people at the time thought they were. And I think the biggest mistake they made was responding, obviously. And I didn't think that they knew who they were picking a fight with. They probably thought we were some huge corporation at the time, which we weren't. Instead of a family business, which we had a lot to lose, obviously.
Yeah.
So we stood our ground, going back to what I said originally, and I was never scared.
Yeah.
I knew who we were. I knew who our customers were. I knew who our employees were, and I knew that them picking on us, no matter what their financial capabilities were, it wasn't going to change who we are. And if somebody did get offended or didn't like, our abrasive tone, I don't think that they were ever going to be a customer anyway.
Fair enough.
Which I learned at a very, very early age, that I saw a Nike exec said it once, that the people who complain about your product the most we're never going to be your customers. And I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that. And there's definitely exceptions. If you do cross the line, you might turn people off, but I don't think we were doing anything to cross the line at the time. I think we were standing our ground, and we were defending all the crabbers in Maryland, the bus boys who depend on the crab meat to be sold to make their tips, and so on and so on. And when it began going viral in a positive fashion, all of a sudden the people that I asked to help me out on this venture and declining me at first, they were like, hey man, if you want, a partner, and I was like, nah man, we went into this on our own, and we're going to finish this on our own too.
Yeah. Did you expect all of that national news coverage?
Absolutely not. I don't, it's in marketing and, being in our industry, we're definitely in the marketing game too. You just never know.
Yeah. There's
been times where I would post like a beautiful photo or a certain celebrity, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to take off, and 7 or 8 likes. And then there's other times where it's you just throw it up because it looks okay, or you think somebody will like it, and it goes viral. And this was definitely one of those examples. It was towards the end of the summer. We're getting ready for football season. Mm-hmm. People are still on their final vacation, and here comes PETA, and they just kind of gave us this layup. So to me, it was a no-brainer. There was never any doubt in my mind that we had to defend our livelihood. Yeah. To them, it may have been tongue-in-cheek, but turning people off from how we feed our families, it's not a joke to me. It's still not a joke to me all these years later. And that's why I think people are always quick to tag Jimmy's into a conversation when PETA is attacking farmers in the Midwest or fishermen on the West Coast or whatever, their case may be. And, we're more than happy to, lend a helping hand in their war. But you can never back down. And it was definitely a David and Goliath story, looking back at it. And the most important thing is I think it helped the brand. I think it identified who we are, who we want to be, and it brought so many new eyes onto our little family restaurant. And we have people driving here from Montana, from Alaska, from Hawaii, from Florida, just to eat there,
right.
because they respected what we were doing. And these are relationships that we still have to this day.
That's right.
And I'm very hands-on, and I want to meet everybody. And I respond to the emails, I respond to the texts, I respond to the comments, and I just let them know how much we appreciate it, because they're helping us keep the very doors that PETA tried to shut open.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you mentioned David and Goliath, because I know that story very well. And one of the interesting things about King David is he ran to the battle. He wasn't afraid of it. And I think you are very similar. When this happened with PETA, you ran to the front. Mm-hmm. You wanted to get involved right away. And the same thing happened when COVID hit. Everyone was struggling, especially in the restaurant industry within Baltimore City. And you ran to the front lines and said, "We got to help." Mm-hmm. And that was the whole genesis of the Famous Fund. So talk about that. Why does it mean so much to you?
Just, I guess, going back to, as I mentioned, my teachings in middle school and high school, you know when something's right. And I knew this was the right thing to do. And I just felt that everything that I had gone through in life, my education, my upbringing, my mentality just brought me to this moment. It felt that this was what I was built for. This is why God put me here on this earth. And just being able to use our large social media following and some of the celebrities that we knew at the time to really shine light on what was going on, I really felt verified that, and the immediate success of it really proved that to me. And that's what kept us going. And that's why I didn't mind, not that I sleep as it is, but sleeping even less than usual. And, responding to Marcus Lemonis at 3 or 4 in the morning to help these bars and these restaurants get the funding that they needed to stay open. It was a no-brainer to me, because we got lucky, and that's the only word I can use, is there was no playbook for COVID, right?
No.
So who knew what the rules were going to be? And unfortunately, the restaurant industry did become vilified as an extent of that. And looking back, even a few months and years later, it's comical, right? But these other restaurants didn't have a built-in carry-out like we had. These other restaurants didn't have food trucks like we had. They didn't have online shipping capabilities like we had. They didn't have the hundreds of thousands of followers that can buy T-shirts online that we had. Yeah. And those things, they weren't there because I knew COVID was coming. They just happened to be there because it's part of our business model. Yeah. And to watch these 50, 60, 70-year-old people that worked their entire lives to build this vision, this brand, and to have it taken away from them through no fault of their own, I mean, I wasn't going to sit around and let that happen.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing thing you've done. Like I said, it's raised over $500,000. You've helped 30 plus restaurants. So I think the effect and the legacy of that dog in the fight kind of mentality, I think it's going to last a really long time. And when you think about the legacy and when you think about where you are in your life now, what do you think Jimmy's will be like in 10 years from now, or 15? Or what do you want it to be like at the very least?
I just want it to be what my dad built. It's an old school, blue collar, immigrant restaurant. And we roll our sleeves up and we work. We take a lot of pride in what we do. We're very steadfast in our beliefs. We're going to give back to the community every day. We're going to have fun at work. But at the end of the day, it's family. And we preach family, we live family. And family doesn't just mean the people that we work with, it means the people that we serve as well. Yeah. People are starting to call it a tourist destination, which is comical because it's not in the best part of town. It's in Dundalk, which people always want to make fun of and we're always quick to defend. But to call that a tourist destination, to me is pretty funny now because, if that's the knock that you have on us, then so be it. But, if that tourist, quote unquote, does come in, they're going to become part of the family right away. And I love just walking the parking lot sometimes and just looking at the license plates and seeing North Carolina and Florida and Pennsylvania, obviously Maryland and Virginia. And it's just like, I got to go talk to every table. I got to see where they're from, how they heard about us, and make them feel welcome here. Give them a T-shirt, give them a hat, give them dessert, whatever the case may be, and just just grow that family. So, hopefully in 10 years, my brother's kids, and hopefully when we start having kids are in that restaurant, and, they're going to tables, busting them and learning the value of hard work. And we'll keep it going for as long as we can, because I think many people are familiar with the stats.
Yeah.
They don't usually make it down the generation in any business. And we love it. It's all we do. It's all we've ever done. And it's all we ever want to do, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I hear a story of determination, of hard work, and in my opinion, the most important part, faith and belief, and no willingness to allow fear to affect your next decision. So, we're coming towards the end of the interview, but, I got to ask one last thing. So you're working with the Ravens, you're working with the Orioles. Any predictions on the Orioles schedule this year?
Gosh, I haven't put much thought in it. There's a positivity around the clubhouse for sure that I've seen around the front office. So, if they do exceed expectations, I won't be surprised. One thing's for sure, the product on the field will probably get better, but the food off the field, I can guarantee will get better.
The food is definitely going to be better.
One thing that I'll say about the Orioles though is they have not had a ton of success lately, but I don't feel like it's really affected the fan base's loyalty, and I think that speaks volumes about Baltimore and just the people that live in Baltimore. And we're very loyal. We're very loyal people, and when we love something, we are very passionate about it. And in this case that we're speaking of now, it's the Orioles, but I've experienced it many times, during COVID when they had our backs, during PETA when they had our backs. There's just nothing like, that scrappiness around here.
That's for sure. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe, and share the video as well. John, it's a pleasure to have you as always.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.